I was driving the other day in a car, of course, not driving on an airplane, I was driving in a car, and I heard a song that I heard, I guess, when I was, I don't know, not even in high school, I don't think. Like around 1976, 1977, a song by a band called Foreigner. And the name of the song is It Feels Like the First Time. And of course, it's not what I want to talk about. My first time is not like their first time, but it kind of triggers something, a thought in my head that I would like to share it with you. By the way, this shiur is dedicated to Refuah Shlema of our dear Talmid, Mr. Z, and Junior as well, from COVID. I hope they're going to be happy and healthy soon and strong. And for everybody else who is in great need, it will be tremendous. And again, a big yeshar koach to our tremendous supporters, our dear friend Shlomo, Karen, and Mike. They're just amazing people that help us a lot, and that really, really means a lot. So, of course, let's go back to the first time. It feels like the first time. That is a major concept in Judaism, the first. It's such a big concept in Judaism that the first mitzvah is not something that we would have thought of. I mean, I would say if the Torah will give us your first commandment, your first mitzvah, should be something spectacular. You know, something like, I don't know, keep the Shabbos, you know, be nice to one another, you know. And comes the Torah, and the Torah teaches us a tremendous lesson. In this week's parasha, by the way. And this week's parasha is the first mitzvah that we have, the first commandment we have is what? Sanctify the month? I mean, give me a break. Imagine how American Constitution would be like instead of the First Amendment, the freedom of whatever the freedom of whatever you had, right? Because I don't think we're going to have so many freedoms anymore. The first amendment will be to sanctify the month. Like, what? But yes, Judaism is fantastic and it's teaching us, and that's why I keep telling you all the time, Judaism is a way of life, is a philosophy, it's not just a religion. It's a way of life, and it's teaching us something tremendous here. And that's called renewal. Renewal. Am Israel is always compared, Am Israel has a very strong relationship with the moon. We don't worship the moon, we don't worship the sun, but rather we associate with the symbolism behind it. The first thing, by the way, in Judaism is always something important. We'll get to it in a second. The sun is very important to us. The sun gives us nourishment, warms us up. There won't be life without the sun. But the sun is constant. It's always there. The sun comes up, it goes down. It's always the same thing. The moon is never the same. Every day, the moon is different. Sometimes it comes half this way, a little bit here. Sometimes it's full. Sometimes it's gone completely. You think it's not there. But it's always changing. Smitty sent me a picture of a time lapse of the moon, and it goes like almost looks like a DNA thing. I'll share it with you later. It's really amazing, and that's a tremendous thing. How the renewal of the sun, of the moon, is always there. So is Am Israel. Am Israel needs to renew itself all the time, and the importance of renewal all the time is because it gives you power, hope. It's not boring. We don't have renewal. For most of us, in the way we live in our life, it's same old, same old, same old. You get up in the morning at the same time, you put on your shirt, you put on your tie, you put on your jacket, you take the same bus, the 7:15 bus to Manhattan, you take the train, the same train, you get over the same station, it's the same thing over and over and over again, and it becomes boring. Judaism tells you it's not like this. Why the first is so important? Why we put so much attention to or importance to the first, the firstborn? I mean, in a way, it seems contradictory, right? Because the kings of the Jews don't come from the firstborn; they come from Yehuda. But still, Reuven, Bechori ata, Reshit Oni, you are my first one. Why is that? Because The first son is an indicator there's going to be a renewal. We look forward to. So how do we live our life with a sense of renewal all the time? It's important, because if we don't, we fall into a terrible state of being, of despair, of no hope. How do we do that? The same, it's very interesting. If you, and you know, we have the mitzvah of bikurim, bringing your first bikurim, bechor, your first produce that you have, because you are expecting, a farmer expects the first yield that he picks up, a child that is born. It's not going to be the first time, by the way, when you're going to see whichever child for the first time, because you've been looking forward to. The sense of renewal could be achieved by becoming sensitive, by paying attention to those changes, to the realization that every day is not the same, every day is different. And when you start paying attention to those little details, therefore everything becomes new, is a new experience. When a person gets married, every day he changes, his wife changes, their relationship is different. They should celebrate this renewal every single day. In the morning when we get up, that should be the attitude. When we don't have that sense of renewal, it's finished, it's miserable. The hitchachut, the renewal in Am Yisrael, is a central focal point in the existence and the way Am Yisrael operates altogether. And that's something that we mustn't. That's why it comes the Torah, and the Torah tells us all that the first thing is the sanctification of the month, the renewal of a new cycle, putting it together, putting it in place. And then we need to understand, if we don't do that, we become desperate. There's nothing forward to look to. It's all same old, same old. And it's the same thing in the state that we are. If there's no renewal of things, right, people become so desperate, so the whole country falls apart. And then people say, it's so miserable, so eat and drink because tomorrow we'll die. And then we go into a vicious cycle of corruption, because there's no point because it's all corrupt. But if everything is new, and that's why we need to pay attention also in the way we pray. You might know all the words of tefillah, of prayer. You might even know it by heart. But for you, every single time when you come into prayer should be a new thing. Or at least maybe, if not a new thing, at least the last thing. Because they say a person should pray like there's a sword on his neck. And I always try to, when I start thinking about it, I said, imagine stands as like a vicious samurai with his katana in his head. And he says, okay, you have kavana, you're going to live. You don't have kavana, you don't have proper attention, chop your head off. How much kavana are you going to daven with? You're never going to take davening the same way. Every time should be different. Every time should be new. And the problems that we have is when we don't celebrate this. We don't celebrate, we don't recognize this, because for us, we don't pay attention to the details, to the changing of things. And therefore we don't adapt ourselves to those changes. And then we're left behind, and there's gaps between us. And that's why families fall apart. That's why people go off the derech. That's why people divorce. So it's very important to start paying attention to the small changes of time. When you get up in the morning one day and you realize, wow, today is really feels different than yesterday. And believe me, day will feel different. I'm not talking about the way you feel emotionally, just, of course, but the way the atmosphere is. Today is going to be a hot day, it's going to be a cold day, it's going to be a crisp day. It's different. Don't brush it off. Celebrate it. Acknowledge this. And then we will give you ability to move forward. So Rabbatai, pay attention to renewal. Make sure different ways to renew yourself, to charge your batteries. If you need, separate for a while from the environment that you're in. Go renew yourself out, something else. Make something to look forward to. That's why when we learn Gemara, I try to learn and finish a Masechta. Because we finish something and then we can look forward to finish it, and then we can look forward to start something new. And it's a very interesting process. But when you learn it with no beginning until no end, to most of us it seems pointless. You give up in the middle. So look to finish things and look to start things. Start cycles and finish cycles. Have something to look forward to. That's a very important thing. That's a principal thought in Judaism. That's why the first mitzvah is the sanctification of the new month. Rosh Hashanah, Bechor of your child, the firstborn, the first yield that you have. Being the first is very important in the Torah. So Rabotai, try to renew yourself, pay attention to details, and maybe you can make it. Have a wonderful day.